Hey, welcome back to the channel, my fellow weather junkies. I'm your host, Greg Majeski, your personal weatherman, bringing you the weather out of all that social media hype here on your Thursday, November 7th, 2024. Let's take a look at what we're tracking here for today as we're expecting some severe weather in parts of Texas as we watch an upper level low that's kind of pulling out into the plains very slowly. It's this same system that's also bringing some heavy snows into parts of Colorado as well as New Mexico for today. We'll take a look at those snow totals as well. And we're going to give you the latest on Rafael. Hurricane Rafael is now in the Gulf of Mexico, and we'll show you the latest forecast tracks on that system as well. Now, before we get going, I first want to thank the new subscribers here to the channel. And if you haven't yet subscribed, come on, why don't you hit that subscribe button, hit that notification bell so you learn on future content. And if you enjoy this broadcast, please give me a thumbs up, leave me a comment down below. I do appreciate your support in this channel. All right, let's go ahead and take a look at our latest satellite imagery here for this morning. Pretty quiet here across the east. Obviously, your eyes get drawn to our hurricane out here in the Gulf of Mexico as it's continuing to track off toward the west. Here's our upper level low back here. This is what's dropping the snows across Colorado and areas of New Mexico for this morning. It's the same system here that'll set off the active weather here across parts of Texas later here for this afternoon. And pretty quiet out on the west coast here for this morning. Latest surface map, again, here's that blue. You see the snow there falling there south of Denver. Pretty much all of the southeastern portions of Colorado and northern New Mexico getting in on the snow action there. Fairly mild up and down the eastern seaboard, well up into the 50s. I mean, this is getting in November. That's very mild to see temperatures up that way. Cold up here in high plains, although not overly so, in the 20s and 30s. Really not that bad. And again, relatively chilly out here in the west. Look at some of these teens out here across portions of Nevada here for this morning. All right, let's take a look at your latest watches and warnings. We got some flash flood conditions here across portions of Georgia and the Carolinas. We got another batch out here expected with some storms that'll fire up later today across portions of Texas and Oklahoma. Of course, all of that pink, that is winter storm warnings, folks, there across New Mexico and then Colorado out there. Those are kind of our main weather concerns here for this morning. Looking at local Doppler radar, this is probably the last day we get to use Doppler radar on Rafael as it continues to pull away. We are getting some of these outer bands scraping into portions of Key West with some heavy rains out there. But this will slowly begin to pull away as it did make landfall as a Category 3 hurricane yesterday. It did make it up to 115 miles per hour. But this system is forecast to weaken as it continues to move off toward the west. Let's go from the tropics. Let's go to winter wonderland. How about this? Look at this. This is a pretty shot here. Snow falling here this morning in Colorado Springs, Colorado. And they're our weather city of the day. And their forecast for today is expecting more snow and a high temperature this afternoon of 36 degrees. And hey, if you'd like to nominate your city as the weather city of the day, you got a good webcam in your area or perhaps here on YouTube, take that link, post it down below, and we'll consider it for a future broadcast. All right, now it's time to go and take a look at the latest from the Storms Prediction Center as we go ahead and take a look at the latest forecast there for the next 3 days. So let's go ahead and pull up our day one outlook here as we are looking at a little pocket there. You notice we got that severe pocket there showing up across portions of Texas. So we got green is that marginal, and that yellow, of course, is that slight risk for severe weather expected here for today, mainly because of what we're seeing with that low pressure system that is going to be slowly pulling on out. Let's break down the categories here as we look at the tornado threat here for today. Relatively low, but it's there. Might see an isolated spin up there. We're talking about 2% in that little green zone right there across portions of basically western Texas here for later this afternoon into the early evening hours. How about the hail threat? It is not looking too bad there, looking at about 15% pocket there in the yellow. And looking at the high wind threat, also that little pocket there in yellow there across portions of central and western Texas. How about the day two outlook? Let's go take a look at that. That begins to shift ever so slightly off toward the west, to the east, I should say, getting into Dallas right there and getting toward San Antonio. You see in there with the marginal risk for severe weather expected as we head into your Friday. And then finally, let's take a look at the day three. Let's go look at the day three. Here we go. Just a general thunderstorm threat here that we're expected here basically from Missouri coming on down to the Gulf Coast, down toward Louisiana. Not looking too bad there with some needed rains into that portion of the country. All right, let's go ahead and talk about the excessive rain amounts. We do have a few of that. We've got a couple of pockets out there that we're looking at right now. And you can see that right now in the southeast, obviously, where those flood watches we're at. They're across Georgia and into portions of the Carolinas. And then, of course, Texas will see some heavier rains there, possibility of some localized flooding there as well, thus the flood watches we're seeing there. So let's go ahead and take a look at the future. We'll look at Friday and into Saturday as far as the next 3 days are concerned. So we go into day 2 and near Friday, and that's a pretty good large coverage zone. Again, this area's been getting a lot of heavy rains here recently with several systems, so they could use a break, but they're going to continue to get some heavy rains there across portions of Kansas, Oklahoma, and into Texas as we go through the day on your Friday. And as far as the day 3 outlook is concerned, let's go into your Saturday. That'll shift a little bit further off to the east and getting into basically the mid-south here from Missouri on down toward Louisiana, parts of Mississippi and Tennessee, getting out of the gun with some of those thunderstorms, bringing some locally heavy rains with it as it progresses ever so slowly off toward the east. So again, recapping that forecast here for severe weather for today, we're talking about Midland, Odessa, San Angelo, Del Rio, and Eagle Pass, all to that slight risk for severe weather for today. And the marginal severe weather that includes San Antonio, Austin, Lubbock, Abilene, and Killeen, all under the gun for the possibility of a few isolated severe thunderstorms for today. All right, let's go ahead and take a look at the tropics. We're going out and seeing the latest 7-day outlook. We do have one area of disturbed weather I'm not overly concerned with. In fact, they brought down the threat from 30 to 20% as far as development in that yellow area. And then obviously we're looking at the latest there on our hurricane that is out now in the Gulf of Mexico. It's got to kind of hold its own. Its winds are back down to 105, so it's continuing off toward the west, but it's going to slowly but surely begin to weaken as it pulls further into the Gulf of Mexico. Here's the official track here. As you can see, it's going to continue to move off toward the west, hold hurricane status into this upcoming weekend, and then it just has a big old circle in here as the steering currents are going to forecast to collapse. So as it collapses, it's going to really slow down, and it's going to weaken significantly as it gets further west. Now, for two reasons. A, the Gulf is not as warm, and also because the environment over it is also not going to be very conducive. So there you can see the water temperatures, they're cooler. So when it developed, it was sitting down here at 29, 30 degree water temperature, and now we're moving into about 27 degree water temperature. That's Celsius, obviously. So we're getting into lower 80s, not quite as warm as what we were seeing down there, but it'll slowly weaken because of the cooler water temperatures, as well as the fact that the overall environment, we're talking wind shear and things like that, not going to be very conducive for it. So looking at the East End's ensemble model here, it kind of makes a left turn and kind of just buries it down into the Bay of Campeche. There are other models that do loop-de-loops out here, and there's still a few that want to take it northward with some of the global models. So I think what's going to end up happening, it'll probably bury itself down into down to the south, because I tend to favor the European model when it comes to things like that. So going here and pulling up the European, we're looking at the main sea surface level pressure anomaly map here, and that blue obviously is indications of your lower pressures. We're kind of tracking the system here in the European. It goes into the middle of the Gulf, and then it really makes that left turn, kind of pulls down into the Bay of Campeche, where it just kind of fizzles on out, goes into Mexico, and that'd be it. It'll be gone at that point. So that is the European model. As we take a look at the other one, as we look at the GFS American model, it's doing a similar thing going up here to the middle of the Gulf, but it just kind of stalls it out there for a little while. It just kind of meanders and just becomes, just dissipates, goes away. So it looks like we're not going to see much of an impact here along the North Gulf Coast. I still wouldn't lift it out completely because the overall steering currents are stalling. So we'll wait and see what happens with this. Let's go ahead and take a look at the overall jet stream pattern here across the country. Obviously, we've got this big trough, or this cutoff low feature down here in the southwest. This is what's responsible for the active weather we'll see later for today. And that system's going to slowly pull on out here for a few days. It's going to be spreading that heavier rain threat across the south central plains and into the southern portion of the United States, at least down towards, say, Louisiana and Mississippi as we head toward this weekend. So this thing's going to be pretty slow to pull on out of here as it pulls up here toward the north, and it kind of drags that system along with it there. A little bit of an active subtropical jet, that's for sure. You can kind of see that right here. The main jet's kind of meandering up here toward the north. But the one thing we're going to watch for next week, something that's really caught my eye here on the latest run, is we got another trough energy that's going to be diving down here off the west coast. It's this energy here coming down here. And it's going to get into what we call a negative phase of the jet stream. It's got a negative tilt where it's tilting backward. When that happens, you can get some pretty robust storm systems as well as severe weather. I'll be watching this very closely here, because as we go into Wednesday afternoon, boom, you see right there, you get this negative tilt in the jet stream like that. When it's tilted back like that, again, that it means you got additional wind shear in there. So we're going to have to watch closely to see if this portion of the country may fall into the gun with a tornado threat as we go toward Wednesday of next week. So Wednesday will need to be watched closely to see if that verifies from model run to model run. We're still about 7 days out here to see if this verifies. Now, this trough does lift on out, and then we see kind of a zonal flow going into late in the day on Thursday. As another trough will kind of bury itself here across the southwest. Again, that's been a trend here for a while. And then we'll see a kind of relatively zonal flow there across the country as we go out here. And that big low there, boom, it kind of buries itself once again with another cutoff low here across Southern California. Some stormy weather out there. We'll see warming once again here across the south central area and the southeast with above normal temperatures here as we head into the following weekend, heading toward the 16th of November. All right, let's look at the precipitation here. We'll go and track this through as we take goodbye to that heavy rain across the southeast. This will kind of filter, kind of rain itself out. Then we'll look for that severe weather here for a couple days, going for Thursday as well as into Friday. Again, just a marginal risk, but some heavy rains, that's for sure. That's why we're looking at that chance for some heavy rains through there across Kansas and into Oklahoma and Texas as we go through the day on Friday. As that low slowly but surely pulls on out and extends that rain there across portions of the Midwest, stretching into the southeast just a little bit. Then as we go forward in time, we'll watch for that next system. So here's our next system into next week coming in here on the west coast as we'll kind of see it's kind of swing on out. And as it does so, again, we'll have to watch closely on Wednesday how the storm system is going to evolve. We're going to get that big negative tilt in the jet stream there, because if it does, as we go into Wednesday afternoon, we'll have to watch this area from, say, down to Texas, down through Missouri and into Illinois. As that cold air charges in behind that jet stream there, it'll be pretty warm out ahead of it, obviously, with above normal temperatures expected. Again, not as robust as any kind of spring system, but I do think a tornado threat will be there. And then this pushes off toward the east, and then it kind of lifts on out, goes in the rains into New England as we head toward Thursday and Friday here. And then most of the country going into the following weekend looks like it's going to be relatively quiet, not too bad, except for out there in the west coast as we're going to be watching a kind of another low pressure system kind of bury itself down there off the west coast there. But most of the country going into the 16th, 10 days out, looking quiet here for the moment. Let's look at the precipitation here. Again, we got that rainy patch, a heavy rain threat there across the southeast. That'll continue here for today there. And then, of course, we've got this precipitation out here. Part of that is snow, which I'll show you here in just a second, as this we'll take this out through the next 10 days. So you see the heavy rains there expanding into Friday, cutting out here across portions of Kansas into Texas and Oklahoma as we go into your Saturday. And this will begin to slowly shift off toward the east. Obviously, as that thing drifts to the east, we'll see the rain there picking up across areas of Louisiana as well. And then watch our next storm system come on in there, and boom, there's the next one coming in here as we go toward Wednesday or Thursday next week as that spreads on out. So still looks like over the next 10 days, the southwest still staying relatively dry, but most of the country getting a little bit of precipitation, maybe a little dry up here toward Montana as well, relatively speaking, to the rest of the country. How about those snow totals here? I got that up here for Colorado and into New Mexico, as we're going to continue to see that heavy snow here continuing all day for today and kind of wrap up here going into tomorrow. But look at some of these snow totals here as I can take this all the way out here to the end of the event going into this weekend. You're looking at feet of snow here. We're talking upwards up to 2 feet here across portions of southeast Colorado, portions of northern New Mexico there, kind of clipping just a little bit of Oklahoma and Texas, but a big bullseye there with some very heavy snows in that area over the next couple days. That does include getting into the Colorado Springs area as well with that heavy snow. Now, as far as the temperature anomaly map's concerned, again, we got to clearly see where that below normal temperature is out there, obviously with its snowstorm out there in the four corners, and most of the east here staying above normal with the temperatures there. Again, this is 850. We're looking at 5,000 millibars. It's easy to track the changes in the air masses at that level, kind of negate that daytime fluctuations that you typically get. So this will be moving off toward the Saturday. It pulls up here toward the north, and it kind of weakens. But again, most of the country pretty warm here, especially across the northeast of the northern plains, obviously. A little cooler out here on the west coast here going into your day on Sunday. So that's on the 10th. Then we'll see that next system pull on here on the west. You see much cooler out here in the west with that next storm system swinging in. Look how warm it is out ahead of this thing. So as we go into your Wednesday, as that frontal system pulls on out, boom, look at that. I mean, you got a very pronounced cold front right through here. That's going to lift that air out ahead of it. So we're going to look at thunderstorms in there across Missouri, especially with that big negative tilt. Again, we have to watch closely for next Wednesday. We could see a potential tornado outbreak across the central portion of the country if this model does verify 7 days out. It will weaken, though, as we go into Thursday as it pushes off toward the east. backing the temperatures off here a little bit here across a lot of the east, but still running a little bit above normal there. And then we'll watch the west coast. It's a big upper level low. You clearly see the below normal temperatures here across California, thanks to a cutoff pool of some low pressure that's going to be coming down off the west coast going into the 16th and 17th of November. All right, let's take a look at your climate outlook here. One thing I'll say, the Climate Prediction Center folks, they've been pretty consistent with their forecasts, and I suspect I know why. There's been no model consistency really going beyond 7 days here. So we're going to continue the trend here where we're looking at above normal temperatures here in the east and below normal here in the west. This goes out till the 16th, and as they go out to the 20th, it looks relatively the same. So no big changes here. My initial long-range forecast that I mentioned this a couple times is that I didn't suspect we would get a change in this pattern until we got till probably around Thanksgiving, toward the end of the month. So I'm going to continue to stay with that unless I see some big change in the jet stream pattern. Overall, it's pretty progressive, so we're going to continue with the precipitation chances, the highest up here across the northwest as we look at the 12th to the 16th. And again, looking from the 14th to the 20th, again, either near normal or above normal precipitation for a big portion of the country, as we do remain in a fairly active progressive pattern here from coast to coast, bringing us rain chances there. So we got some active weather we got to watch here for today and tomorrow. Again, we got really for what I would consider kind of our first big snowstorm there of the season. A relatively small area there across Colorado and New Mexico. And for right now, as far as Hurricane Raphael's concerned, not really concerned about it. It looks like it's going to kind of wash itself out in the Gulf of Mexico and not be a factor for you folks there in the northern Gulf Coast states. All right, that is your update for today. And again, if you appreciate these weather dailies and you like them to be part of your YouTube feed, all you got to do is please subscribe to the channel, hit that notification bell so you learn on future content. And if you appreciate the support, as always, leave me a comment, give me a thumbs up down below. All right, that'll wrap it up for this edition. You guys take it easy, be good, stay safe, and we'll see you next time. Bye-bye for now.